Today we're reviewing one of the most expensive fragrances in my collection, Clive Christian 1872. I went on a boys' trip to Spain a few weeks ago, and for some reason I wanted to take this fragrance with me because I spent a lot of money on it, and I thought it's a good time to get to know the fragrance properly when going on holiday, when it's the only fragrance you've got available to wear. So 1872 by Clive Christian, the listed price or the retail price for 100ml, £490. This is 100ml, and the 50ml, half the size of this, is, I think, I'm just checking on my phone, £310. It's a very expensive fragrance, one of the most expensive fragrances I've got in my collection. I didn't pay £490 for this. I did get a bit of a discount, but it's still a really expensive fragrance. So a little bit about this fragrance then. Discover a captivating blend of 219 ingredients, including herbaceous textures enriched with invigorating clary sage, lively black pepper, and petitgrain in this exquisite woody citrus perfume. So, 1872 Masculine by Clive Christian. Now, the main listed notes, they say you're going to get a petitgrain, clary sage, and cedarwood. And they're the sort of three listed notes on their website. Now, you do get those notes, but you get a lot more as well. It's a really in-depth, it's a really complex fragrance. Not complex as in it's a fragrance profile that's quite different, because actually this fragrance profile, the aromatic citrus woody masculine scent, is a really old school sort of classic style of men's perfumery. So it's a fragrance DNA or a structure that you would have smelt before, especially if smelling fragrances like Dior Eau Sauvage, for example, is a good example to give you of how this actually smells. But this is much deeper, and it's a lot more heavier, complex, and bold than a typical sort of cologne fragrance like Dior Eau Sauvage. So this has citruses in the opening, but really well done citruses, not cheap smelling. They smell really expensive and just really nice and refreshing citruses. And then as it goes into the dry down a bit more, you get a lot of floral notes, and that's where the old school style might come in a little bit. The smell of like an old perfume. You know, this was made in 2001, so it's almost 25 years old now. So if you're a younger person, it is going to smell quite old school. It doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing. It's just not going to come across as like a new modern designer fragrance like what's being released now. Like a new designer fragrance released now will not smell anything like this, because it's a slightly more old school structure of a men's fragrance. So citruses in the opening with petitgrain gives it that nice green, sort of fresh, lush feel. And then it goes a bit more floral. It's really quite heavy in the florals, actually. So that's something that you should be aware of. And then as it dries down fully, it's really woody. It's masculine. It has cedarwood in. So the woody note is really obvious and quite a masculine smell. This to me really smells like a James Bond style character, or like a CEO at a black tie event. It's that kind of fragrance. It's not really a casual smelling fragrance. You know, I took this to Spain and it wasn't like a formal serious trip. It was a boys trip, you know, and to me, it's not really suited for that situation. If I had to be picky, I think you can wear whatever you want. I was absolutely fine wearing this and I really enjoyed it. But I think if I'm just trying to give you a picture of how it smells much more serious and much more formal than just a casual setting. Although it's a fragrance you can wear to pretty much anywhere as long as you're comfortable wearing it, because it's not a really challenging fragrance. It just smells so expensive and luxurious and sophisticated that I imagine wearing this to like a smart formal event. That's how I think this is best to wear. I think if you're dressed up nicely in a suit, that's where this will really shine. Now, another fragrance this reminded me of, I know I mentioned Dior Eau Sauvage a minute ago, but Creed Royal Water. Now, this is not as heavy as Clive Christian, but it has a sort of similar structure. And also Xergio Fiero, I've got it down there somewhere, I can't be asked to get it out now, but Xergio Fiero in the green bottle, that has a very similar scent profile. That smells, the Xergio Fiero, that smells like Dior Eau Sauvage, but amped up, like it's on steroids, like a lot stronger. And that's similar to this, but this is a bit more smooth. From my memory, Xergio Fiero is really sharp and a little bit sort of tangy, has a sort of difficult note in there for me that I'm not that fond of, but this smells really smooth, and I think I prefer this over that. But this has the same sort of scent profile as Dior Eau Sauvage, but it's much more amped up. It's a 20% perfume concentration, so it's an eau de parfum. It's not like a cologne or anything. and this will be a lot longer lasting than Dior Eau Sauvage as well. So with the performance, it is a decent performing fragrance. It's not like a crazy beast mode scent. The woody notes and the floral notes will last on your skin the longest. So like the petitgrain and the citrus will fade away, and you will get the floral notes and the cedarwood note last a lot longer. It does have a decent performance, which really it should. For £500 almost for 100ml, it must have good performance. So the verdict then, do I like it? I really like the smell. I think it smells lovely. I think if you want this sort of scent profile, there isn't many better fragrances that I've tried on the market. If you want just the best one, you can buy the one that smells the best, really good performance, really natural smelling, really high quality sophistication. This is the fragrance to go for. I wouldn't buy it for almost £500. I think that's just really expensive. I got a bit of a discount, and also I have a fragrance sample website, so I'm in a position where I can buy more expensive fragrances and not have to worry about the sort of financial burden of it. But if I was a normal consumer, I'm not convinced I would spend even over £300 on this kind of fragrance. Maybe like £250 for 100ml. I would buy this because I think it's worth it. Above that, when you start getting above the £300 mark, that's when it gets a little bit silly for me. But it is a very well done fragrance with a brand that appears to have a lot of history and really nice presentation as well. We didn't really look at the presentation, but it has a king cap, which is quite cool, and it's a very nice bottle design, and it comes in a really luxurious box as well. So I'm not sure I'd buy it again for the listed price, but around £250, £275, I would buy it again. And I think it's the best fragrance. I think it's the best fragrance I've tried in this category. So my rating is on the screen, and overall I give it a 7.2 out of 10. I really am excited to hear your thoughts on this fragrance, and would you give it higher than a 7.2 out of 10? See you soon.